Hey guys, Katie here from Equestrian Movement. I have moved inside, upgraded into the office. So this live video is coming from my office room instead of my balcony. Hooray, we're nearly unpacked. So today what we're doing is talking about how to ride the transition into canter. So the most common issue I see with the transition to canter, and this is because I have a lot of, new riders, green riders, novice riders, is the rider being unbalanced and unconfident or not confident. We're going to go with not confident enough to go into the canter with the horse. So as a rider, you're going, okay, I'm going to canter, oh no, we're about to canter. And then you lock down, you're grabbing onto the horse's mouth, you're locking your knees on, and you're interfering with the horse's ability to canter. So part of what the horse needs from you to get into the canter is for you to actually let them canter. So if you're asking for that canter transition and then having a minor coronary and shutting down and locking down and grabbing its mouth, then it's not going to canter. So part of why we are not confidently riding forward into the canter is because our horse potentially is also unbalanced. So if we are in an area that's too small, if they've been out of work for a while, if they are rushing into the canter, they're not doing a smooth canter transition, then it's going to unseat us as a rider and make us bounce around over the place, and as a result we're going to grab their mouth and try and balance ourselves so that we're not bouncing off as their horse transitions into the canter. The other part about the canter being a little bit scary and a little bit unbalanced is if within the canter the horse kind of just keeps gaining momentum, which is what they do if you don't know how to balance the canter and ride a half halt and check it. So the first thing that we do, remember, with trot is transitions into the trot and then bringing them back to walk to establish that forward jump into the trot, balance the trot, and then bring it back. So we want to have that same goal in canter. You don't want to go, okay, I'm cantering today, and then go and do like 4 laps of the arena in canter expecting it to be perfectly balanced and you to not bounce around like a sack of potatoes. It's just not, it's too high of a goal. Sorry guys. So your first goal should be just the transition into canter, and then once you're cantering, bring it back to trot. Because then you got brakes as well, right? Like you don't want to get halfway around that arena and go, uh-oh, somebody cut my brakes. And the horse is going faster and 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 faster, because that's when it hits the corner and you get spat out the side. So what we're doing first is we're doing the transition from trot to canter, and then once we're in canter we're bringing it back to trot, balancing the trot, and then bumping back up into the canter, maintaining the canter, bringing it back to trot. Remember also, if we're doing nice transitions, like if these transitions are going well, 3 repetitions, change the exercise, keep the horse engaged, willing, and an active participant in this. The other thing that we can do is we can practice the transitions on the lunge, and that's what I've been doing with Fiddy, bringing him back into work. Is he is quite rushy in the canter. He's a thoroughbred, they just rush. So I've been practicing the canter transitions on the lunge, going canter to trot, trot to canter. And after now it's been about 3 weeks, he's starting to get his working canter established on the lunge. And, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to be quite happy to sit on that now. I don't really want to sit on it while he's falling over his feet and rushing away and not balancing himself. So having a nice, well-established canter on the lunge will help you to get a nice, well-established canter under saddle, which will help you ride a nice transition into canter as well. So secondly, if you are a little bit messy in that transition to canter, it can really be beneficial for you to go and seek out a riding school that has a horse that has got a balanced canter, that is going to smoothly transition into canter and then smoothly transition back to trot. That isn't necessarily going to need you to steer it, so you can hold on to the monkey grip and practice how to use your seat and how to hold on with your seat, so that when you are cantering on your horse, you know what you're supposed to be doing with your seat, and you're not trying to hold their mouths to hold on, you're holding on with your seat and your legs, which really is an art in itself. So part of training that good seat in the saddle so that you are comfortable and balanced is being able to get up into your 2-point seat in the canter, and then being able to get back down into your seated canter and then back up again. If you can comfortably balance hovering out of the saddle, then you can comfortably balance sitting in the saddle. If you have a horse that is strung out in the canter and is too forward in the canter, they're going to make the canter hard to sit to for you themselves, because they're not absorbing the concussion of the canter by flexing through their back and their hocks. So they're going to make the canter bouncier for you. So once they start developing that slower canter and start getting a bit more balanced, and they start absorbing the concussion of the canter themselves, then the canter does get smoother and it does get easier for you to sit to. So then the really sticky bit is just the transition from trot to canter. So trying not to get them to rush through the trot into canter. When we're working with our green horses, this is essentially how we get them into canter. We kind of like just make the trot go faster until they canter, and then transition back to the trot until they understand what we're trying to achieve. If you're doing this with your green horse, though, you need to have a very strong, very independent seat that you can stay out of their way while they sort their legs out, which again is why I would prefer to do it on the lunge or in a round yard first, and then start working on it in the saddle. So hopefully they have some kind of a balanced canter for you to ride when you do practice transitioning in the saddle. So once you have them understanding that you want them to go into canter and to come back to trot, then we're trying to get a nice like pop into the canter so that it's not run, canter. Because then the canter is going to be like that, right? It's going to be running along in the canter, and that's when your horse gets on the forehead and your brakes don't really work anymore, and it's hard to pull them up because they're balancing on your hand so hard. So to get that nice transition into canter, we have to have a very good, clear communication with our horse, that they understand what we want of them. And when I'm setting this up, I'm thinking about what I'm expecting from them in the future. So if you're going, I just want a canter, yes, I have a canter, then we're not setting our horse up to succeed with our tasks in the future. What do we want him to need? What do we need him to be able to do down the track? So if you're going to do any kind of competing down the track, you need to be able to get the transition on the letter, and you're going to need to get them to pick up the correct canter lead, and you're going to want to do walk through changes of lead. So part of training a good transition into canter is the horse understanding what canter lead you want them to strike off on, and how to balance the trot before you ride the canter, and then also the amount of preparation that your horse needs to get into canter and what they feel like when they are ready to canter. So for this, I say I use my outside leg, and I use it to say to the horse, get ready to, and then the inside leg is the strike off. So that they start to associate that inside leg is the lead that you want them to pick up when you go into the canter. And so that helps you to ride the balanced trot, because your outside leg is saying get ready to, and so their feet are coordinating into the right place to get that canter lead that you're going to ask for, and then your inside leg rides the strike off, so that you can, put your leg on at C and they'll canter at the letter. You can ride your walk through canter transition, and you can put your leg on as you're changing direction, and they pick up that and you canter lead without resistance. So doing a good job of training your canter lead in here in the beginning means that down the track you don't have to redo the canter transition itself. So obviously the first time you do this with the horse, they're not going to be like, yes, nailed it, got the canter lead perfect. So we go back to our pressure release of how to actually get the horse into the canter. And then we've got our pathway of consequence, right? The horse starts to associate, okay, this happens and then that happens and then she's going to hassle me until I canter. So our outside leg comes on and it's saying get ready to, and then our inside leg on and it comes on and says canter on, and then if we don't canter, she's going to keep hassling us until we canter. So when you're working with a green horse, that's when it gets messy. You have to just stay out of their road while they have that really messy trot getting into canter. And again, this is why I like to train it on the lunge first, because we can also train in that vocal cue there as well. So if we're saying prepare to canter, canter on the lunge, we can then be also saying that as we ride that canter rate. Our outside leg is saying prepare to canter, we can say it with our voice. Our inside leg says canter on, and they go into the canter. And so then we can start to get nice transitions into the canter without them rushing through it and running onto the forehand, getting unbalanced, and then having a messy canter. And then their legs are all in a tangle and we're like, uh-oh, I have a problem. So they're just a few little tips for you to help get a nice canter transition out of your horse. Obviously, you're not just going to pop on and they do it straight away. The thing with our riding is that it takes time to perfect. So alternating between your lunging work and your ridden will bring it along a bit quicker, especially if you're not confident in the saddle, because then the horse is still establishing it even if you're not riding it particularly well. If you aren't riding it particularly well, I would consider going to a riding school and like really sorting your seat out for the canter, which in itself takes a while, right? And then remembering our horse's pathway of conditioning, 6 to 8 weeks for balance, 3 to 4 months for muscle tone, 6 to 12 months for bone and ligament density. So from the first day that, leg salad, I like that. From the first day that we introduce these canter transitions, you've got 6 to 8 weeks of just practicing them until the horse develops those neural pathways to those muscles to start getting some balance. Then you've got 3 to 4 months of developing muscle tone, so they actually are in control of their body to do that transition. And then you've got 6 to 12 months of them just really consolidating it so that it becomes part of their conformation and so that it becomes easy. So that if you do spell them, you bring them back into work. There's not as much work to get them ready to be doing those canter transitions again. So again, if you have any questions, this is actually definitely going to be something that we cover in our Green to Self-Carriage course that we've got coming up soon. But if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I will definitely get back to you and answer them for you. Have a lovely day. Bye.